Okay, so by now you should have watched the introductory video, and hopefully you've found that maybe this is something that can help you do your job a little bit easier. Um, and you've decided to move on and learn a little bit more about how to collect your data electronically. Okay, so what I'm going to show you now is how to go from your blank sheet, such as that, over to a format that has the different things we need. It has our student data at the top, has our box for goals, has our data collection portion, and then of course the analysis box. And we're going to get to the graphing later, okay? But so basically, where do we need to start at? Okay, first thing you're going to notice is that we've got all the student information at the top. Some of these things you're probably going to think are kind of funny, maybe not that important. Um, you don't have to put the IEP. I've got the IEP progress monitoring fall semester. That's maybe something that's not necessarily needed, so we're just going to jump straight down and go to the student, okay? So we're going to put student and a little comma there, and we'll enter our student name. We'll call this student Jeannie Test. That's Johnny's sister, in case you didn't know. So we've got the information there for the student. We're going to put what grade the student's in. And of course, I know that I'm a third grade teacher, and my colleagues know that I'm a third grade teacher. So when they look on there and they see my name as case manager, or when they see a student that we know is in third grade, then you may be wondering, why is he putting third grade on there? You know that's a third grade student. Well, the reason I'm doing that is because as we look down the road, these kids go on to middle school in 5th, 6th, 7th grade, and maybe there's an issue, and they start looking back through the data, through the due process folder, and they pull out this data. It's just quick right there. There's no guessing, well, this was elementary school. No, we see right here on the data. This was from third grade. This, of course, is the student, Jenny, that we know. Who took this data? Okay, right there, right away. No trying to look it up in IC and figure it out. Travis Caudill. Okay, so if they got questions, they know where to come to get the answers. Hopefully, I haven't forgotten by that point what I was doing at that time. But it's just good for reference in the future, so we have what grade the student was in, who was working with them, those kinds of things. That's why I'm including that on here. I also like to include the IEP start date. Again, that's just so for my reference, I know who, or not who, but which IEP this data goes with, okay? We make a new IEP every year, sometimes 2 or 3 a year. So you know right away this goes with that IEP, because sometimes in those due process folders, things get jumbled up. We all know that, okay? You may want to add an IEP end date. That is an initiative that Clark County is working on. Timelines, making sure that we're following our timelines. So if you're somebody that needs a little extra help remembering when your ARCs are coming due, or when the IEP timeline's running out, it might help you just to stick that on there. Okay? I'm not saying that you have to, but if we all know ourselves, if that's something that you could benefit from, then go ahead and stick it on there. Okay. The second thing I want to do, after I've got this information, you can see like the IEP start date takes up 2 cells here, okay, and it's going to be 3 by the time we put the actual date in. So right now I can see that fine, but if I were to go in and enter data in this cell, for instance, you can see how it cuts off that B4 cell, which actually has the start date in there. And even if I go and spacebar that out and get rid of it, it's gone now. If you have that issue and you want to get that back, you can actually right-click and go down to Clear Contents, and that'll allow the what's in B to leach on over into the other cells. But what I want to do is actually go in and highlight, such for example, the student here, Jeannie Test, takes up these 3 cells. We're going to use merge, okay? This is, if you look across the top at your toolbars, we're in the home toolbar right now. It's going to have most of what we're using right now. So I'm looking at home. This is the merge feature. You got merges in or merge across, merge cells. If you merge too many, sometimes I get carried away and I want to unmerge something. That's there also. We're going to use merge cells right now. All you got to do is just click that, and now you've got one big cell right there. Okay. I'm going to do the same thing for the rest of these, just to kind of tidy up what I'm doing. Something you can't see what I'm doing right now, but if you see right here, all of a sudden that went from 2 cells to 1 big cell. Okay. How did that happen? Well, I'm using a function on the keyboard, F4, and what that does is that repeats the last function that you did. So the last thing that I actually did was a merge. So if I highlight these 2 cells and I'm going to hit F4 again, and it instantly does that for me. That's something that's going to make your job a lot quicker and easier as you go through doing some of these repetitive type tasks, like merging or shading or things of that nature. Is just use your F4 key instead of having to go highlight again. You can just highlight and hit your F4 and it repeats the last function that you actually used. Okay, so now we have our student data up here. Okay, so that's nice and neat at the top. We'll know who this kid is for the rest of their data days when we look through. Let's go through real quick, and we're going to put a IEP. We're going to say this thing started on, let's say 11/2/16. Okay, and first thing after I put that date in, you see that we had some hashtags come up. Let's put the end date. If they start on 11/2, we'll put that they end on 11/1/17. Okay, 1 year's worth of IEP. Okay, now why did that date change to these hashtags? The reason is the date format that it wants to use right now is wider than the cell that I put it in. Okay, so I'm going to show you how to fix that. What I want to do, because we're trying to be efficient with our space, we're trying to put all this information into an area that is going to print out nice and neat. So when you show up at your ARC meeting, you've got all your data. It's nice, neat, and organized, visually appealing. Okay. So the way we're going to do that is we're going to highlight column D. Okay. Across the top, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, all those are columns because they go up and down. 1 through infinity, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all those. This is a row. So when we talk about rows, we're going left to right, horizontal. Columns are up and down, vertical. Okay. So my date column, I'm here, and I'm actually not. I was going to actually change the format, the cells in the whole column, but I actually think I don't want to do that really. So I'm going to pick just these 2 cells, and I'm going to do that by holding my Control key. That'll allow me to choose 2 cells at one time. All right, and I'm going to right-click, and I'm going to go down to Format Cells. Okay. Right now, it has recognized that I put a date in there, so it has changed this from general or number over to the date category. But we've got all these different ways to present the dates. Okay. Right now, it's got month, date, and 4 numbers for the year, and that's what's taking up a lot of space. So let's just look down through our options at what we might want to use. Okay. How about, I think I'm just going to go with the month and day. Okay, because I know we're talking about 2016, 17 already. Because actually I forgot to write that in, so let's go put that in. Let's see, school year and 2016, 17. Okay, so when I'm looking at this data, or somebody's looking at this later on down the road, they're going to know that this is from the 16-17 school year. We're starting on 11/2 and 11/1. That must be from 16 to 17. Okay. And if you don't like that, I'm actually thinking maybe no, I don't really like that after all. So I'm going to go back in. That's no big deal. Let's go back and format those cells again. Let's just go with the 2-year or 2-number year also, and we'll just have to open that up just a little bit. All right. So as you've seen now, I'm adjusting the size of these cells by going up and grabbing the bars. You probably know how to do that already. Something you may not know how to do, I'm going to show you in a minute. Something's kind of neat actually. You can go up, I'll show you right now. Use your shift key, and you can select multiple columns or multiple rows at a time. Now why would you want to do that? When we go to, say if you want, this was your goals, you want these all the same size just for visual acuity to make it look nice. You can select all these and then grab one and adjust it, and it makes every one of those that is selected that same size now. So you've got nice, neat, uniform boxes. I'm going to use my, I don't know if I've told you yet, but I'm using Control Z. That's your undo command on your keyboard. If anytime you do something that you don't mean to, you're typing your data, all of a sudden you just erase something, stop right there, don't panic, hit Control Z. Okay? That just undoes your the last thing that you did. So it's a quick way to fix something that you may have accidentally messed up. Alright, so with that said, let's go ahead and we're going to make a box to put our data in. So I'm just going to grab some cells, and I'm going to go up and I'm going to do that same merge cells again. Now I've got one big box here. Okay, now that's kind of hard to see a little bit what's going on, so I'm actually going to go and I'm going to add a border. Okay, we're still in the home toolbar. If you look down, you're going to see these little, I'm not sure which one is actually there when you start, but you're going to sit right under the bold command. You're going to see this box, and you've got all these different options. The easiest one that we're going to use is just going to do all borders, and that basically means it adds a border to the top, the bottom, the left, and the right of whatever cells you've selected. Okay, so we've now got a border for those cells. All right, next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add my data across the top, and if we look back at what I had, we have date, description, week number, and then our goals. Okay, and again, like I said, I'm going to screenshot this and give you guys a screenshot that you can pull up and look at as you're building your Excel sheet, just for reference. Okay, so let's start with our date. Okay, and then we had description, and that just basically, remember if I said that's going to tell us what our probe is. Okay, I'm going to go ahead, just so I don't get confused, see how this description doesn't fit all the way in J. I want to make J just a little bit wider for now, and we'll have to adjust that size more later, but for now that's what I want to do. The next thing is going to be week, and I'm going to use the hashtag or number sign week number. Alright, and then we've got our goals. We're going to build Jenny up similar to her brother. We've got goal number 1, and we'll make that a goal that we get a straight percentage for, so all we have to do is put in the number 60, 70, 80%. Goal 2 is going to be one that builds off of benchmark. So we've got goal 2, we're going to call this benchmark or BM 2.1, and we're going to have benchmark 2.2. Okay, so we've got, these are for goal 2, that's why it's the 2 point. And so what we're going to say is that this goal may be a behavior goal. Perhaps goal 2 says that Jenny will meet classroom expectations, and we're going to break that down and say that what we mean by that, she needs to maintain appropriate voice level, and she needs to stay in assigned area. And I'm going to show you how to average those two every week, so that it'll pull up what your percentage for goal 2 is. So maybe she's really good at maintaining the appropriate voice level, but she's having trouble staying in her area. Okay, I'm going to show you how to have those two average out to give you the goal 2, because remember, we don't report on the benchmarks. We report on goals. Okay, now does that mean that we don't need to know how the student's doing towards the benchmark? No. In order to make educationally relevant decisions, your teacher's decisions, you need to know how the student's doing in these benchmarks. But when we go to ARCs, when we send data home for progress reports, things of that nature, we don't send on benchmarks, we send on goals. Okay, so that'll make your job a little easier, and I'm going to show you how to have Excel automatically give you that percentage. So that's where we're at right now. So basically, we've got our heading across the top, and all our data is going to fall underneath of this. Okay, right now, when you look at my example document versus the regular sheet, you're going to see this is, in my opinion, is a little more appealing to look at. And the reason for that is we've got two things going on here. We've got the box, the borders around all the data, and we've got some shading to kind of help separate what we're looking at. So let's go back, and the first thing I want to do is I'm going to grab all the cells that fall into that data category, and I want to add a border to all of them. Okay, I'm using that same all border command that's under the bold. Okay, so you can now see we have a box around every one of those, or a border around every one of our cells. Okay, I also want to go, and I love to shade things because it just helps my mind see what's going on a little better. You can put all kinds of fancy colors if you want. Bear in mind that no matter what you do, unless you've got some miracle printer, that everything is going to pretty much print in black and white because it costs a fortune to print in color, apparently. So I just go ahead and get in line with that. I find some shade of gray that I can live with, and I go for it. Okay. The second thing that I do, these benchmarks that aren't actual goals, I go ahead and I shade them out also. Okay. That doesn't mean that I'm not still looking at those. That just means that those aren't numbers I'm necessarily reporting on. So when I look at this, I can see my data straight across. I can say goal 1, goal 2. These are my goals, what I'm reporting. Okay. So you can see right here on Johnny, this Johnny's example document. We've still got the benchmarks in here, and they're right here. They're averaging up to 78. But it just kind of, as soon as I look at that, it puts my eye towards what I want to see, which is that goal 2 percentage. Okay, so that's why I've got that set up the way that I have. So from there, we need to start tweaking our sizes of our columns just a little bit. Date, basically, let's make that about as small as we can. You'll see if you make it too small because the word date will start to disappear. Okay, so let's make that about as small as we can. And let's go ahead and actually put a date in. I think 9/7 was the first date that we started with this school year for collecting data. All right, so we have that same problem again that we had before. The date doesn't want to fit. This time it's chose to use this kind of a European almost date format where it has the day and then the month after. So let's highlight this whole column. You do that by going up, and you'll see as I go into the top of the letters here how my cursor turns to narrow. We're going to highlight this whole column, and we're going to format all those at once. I'll do that by all these cells at one time. I'm going to do that by right-clicking, going down to Format Cells. I'm going to click on Date again, and this time I am going to use just a month and day, okay? Because I know what's going on with this data, and that's going to give me the smallest cell size to still get my data across, okay? Same thing with week number. Let's see how we did it over here. We left, to try to shrink this one down a little bit, actually left the number sign off a little bit. You just have to play around with this. Remember, what we're trying to do is get our data as small as we can get it while still being able to get it. We need to be visually appealing, but we need to make it all fit on one sheet when we print. You don't want to have 3 or 4 different sheets where your benchmarks percentages of here didn't print out right or whatever. So we gotta need to make all this stuff fit. Now let's look at goal number 1. I want to make this so that it has goal and it has the number 1 underneath of it stacked so that I can make this a little bit smaller. But look what happens when I close that column in. All it does is gets rid of that goal number 1. Okay, how can we fix that? What I'm going to do, I'm going to highlight these 4 cells because that's where I want to be able to do this at, and we're going to go up and let's see. I kind of lost it for a second. What this is called is wrapping, and I have forgotten where it's at. Oh, here it is. Text trap. Okay, so you see how yeah, wrap text. You want to click that, and what that's going to allow us to do as we close this down, instead of making it disappear, it now has the goal number 1 moved down to the bottom. Okay, see how we're doing that? Okay, and now I want to make, just like I told you a while ago, I want this to be nice and neat. So I want all these gold boxes to be the same size. So I'm going to highlight all 4 of those columns, and I'm going to, I don't know if I don't know if I showed you this or not actually. What you can do, if you want all these boxes to be the same size, you can highlight all the columns you want, and then you adjust just one, and it changes the size on all of them. Okay, so we want to make this as small and tight as we can. So with that said, I'm going to highlight just the gold boxes, and I'm going to try to squeeze them down. The only thing I'm putting in here are percentages, straight numbers, so like 70, 80, 90, things like that. So I don't need much room to be able to do that. Alright, so that kind of gets us started what we're wanting to look at. The only other thing we need to add now is we're going to come right underneath of all this, and again, if you want to change yours and do it a little, if you want to have one box or whatever, for my example document, I've got a box that goes all the way across the bottom section, so I'll have plenty of room to write. Okay, and I'm going to make this our analysis section, and we're going to do that by highlighting the cells that we want, coming back up here again, and we're going to use the merge cells feature. Okay, now we've got our huge giant cell now to type in, and I'm going to go ahead and put a border around that, and I'm just going to type what that is so that when this prints out, the parent will know what this is. This is the written analysis. Okay, and that's, you'll go in right here and you're going to type in your written analysis. Jenny, oh, you think I could spell, but Jenny is a great student. Okay, my typing is not the best right now. So that's your analysis, blah blah blah. You put what you need to put in there. Okay, same thing here. When you've got this giant cell, you're going to go in and you're going to add your goals. Right now you can see that when you type it, when you click on it, you're justified at the bottom, your cursor's at the very bottom. You can change that by clicking on the cell, and you've got your layout. You've got left, center, right justified, and then you've got your, right now it's set to the bottom, aligned to the bottom, middle align. I like to change that to the top just so that it starts us off right at the top. Okay, the way I did that, again, You click on the cell that you're looking at, and all those features are right here. You've got top, middle, bottom, left, center, and right. Okay. So pretty much any of your text formatting features all seem to be right here. You've got your merge cells, you've got your text wrapping, which allows these to stack on top of each other. And that's real simple. Like if you make this, see I move that out, it goes to goal 2 again. But when I bring that in, instead of just disappearing, it stacks it up and down, okay? And I'm going to fix those because, like I said, I do want to keep those all the same size. It makes your data look uniform and professional. Okay, so when I look at this now, the only thing I'm seeing that I don't really like is that I see all what they call the grid lines in the back. Now when you print these light gray grid lines, they will not show up on your printed copies, which is great. But again, because of what we're doing with this data, the point of having this is to see trends, to find data, to analyze your data, those kinds of things. So it needs to be visually appealing. I need to be able to look at it right away and see yes, 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 no, what I like, what I don't like. And the first thing looking at this, what's catching my eye are these grid lines. So I'm going to show you how to turn those off if you want. This is completely up to you, but I don't like looking at them. So I'm going to go up, and I believe it's under page layout. And when you look right over here, it's got grid lines, and you've got view and print. If you for some reason want to print those, that's fine. Click print and print them out. But I don't even want to see them at all, so I'm going to unclick the view, and that's instantly taking those away. Alright, and I hope you'll notice right away that kind of makes this whole thing look a little more appealing. Okay. The second thing I just noticed is you'll see how we've got this dotted line. What this is telling me right now, if I print this, I'm only going to get what's on the left of this dotted line. Okay, and it goes down to right here. This is a page, basically page 1. Alright, I want to fix that, and the way I'm going to do that is I'm in the page layout toolbar already. First of all, when we print this data, I want it to print in landscape format. So I'm going to go to page layout, orientation, landscape. Okay, you'll see right away that gray line's moved. If we go looking for it, I've still got borders, but being that we turned the page, basically, I've got a wider space to work with. Okay, and we can see that we're going right here. And so we've got our data and our written analysis will be on page 1. And when we put that graph in, we're going to stick it down here on page 2. So that as we print this for our ARCs and such, we'll have 2 pages. Okay. So with that said, let's make sure that I showed you everything I wanted to show you. I showed you how to make your borders. I showed you how to get rid of those grid lines that I didn't want to see, and maybe that you don't want to see because it makes it just a little cleaner. Let's take one more look. Let's see, with grid lines. Without, when you get rid of those, it just makes it look a lot nicer. And this is how it's going to present when you print it out. Okay. I've also showed you how to do this shading. Okay. That's going to be a key. A big thing for me is shading. It helps me orient what is important and what's not necessarily important. Okay. You can play with this however you want. Maybe you want to make this bold. Oop, wrong button. Go to home. Maybe you want to make those bold, or you want to come up here and you want to make this bold. Whatever you want to do. You feel free to play around with that kind of stuff. Make it yours. Make it your own. That's great. Okay. So for that, this is all I wanted to show you right now for how to format your blank sheet to get started. I'm going to screenshot the test sheet for Johnny Test, okay, so that you can, so as you build your sheet, you can look at it without having to watch the whole video. You can look just at that screenshot for reference. You can see the data that I included at the top. You can see, if you want to necessarily kind of maybe even copy mine and see that I went from column B to column H, and from 4 to 19 for my data series here, and for the goal box. Feel free to do that. I'm going to give you that screenshot so that you can do that, and so that you can see kind of what we needed for your date, your description, your week and goals. As you get used to doing this and making your own, when you start doing multiple students, this is something you'll kind of like, you'll know how to do it. You'll be like, well, I know I need that date in the description and those different things, or if you want to tweak it a little bit and add something, that's 100% fine. I'm glad to help you out and help you accomplish what you're trying to do if you want to add something like that. You're more than welcome to. One thing I'm going to change real quick, I about forgot, this description box, see how much bigger it is than the others? That's because you're going to have some room to type. For week, you're only putting one number in. For goals, you're putting percentages. But for this description, you're going to need a little bit of space. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to come to my A column, and I'm going to move it over. I like to leave A in there because if you don't, then it puts all your data far to the left here up against your border. And that makes it hard to look at for me. I like having this little gap in here so I can keep things visually the way I want them. And then, so now that I'm all the way to the left, I'm going to go back, and I'm going to grab the J, the right of the J column here, and I'm going to expand that description out. Basically, depending on how many goals you got is going to depend on how far out you could take it. But I'm basically going to just push it out to the edge of the right border. Okay, and that gives me a little bit more room right here for description. And just for the heck of it, I'm actually going to center that word description there. Okay. So if you've got any questions, post in the comments below. Please do so. I'm looking for questions from you guys, comments. Nothing's going to offend me. If you want to do something a little different, I'll be glad to help you do that. So please do so. Ask questions and post comments. I'm going to put the screenshot for you to look at as you build this. Your task is going to be to open up Excel on your computer, and you're going to be using this video and the screenshots that I provide for reference, and you're going to be building a blank sheet. Okay, and what we'll do, we'll go through and you can name it test student or whatever you want to name it, and you're actually going to be uploading that file to me, and I'll take a look at it and just kind of check how you've formatted it, make sure that it's looking appealing and things of that nature, and that we're getting what we want to get done with the project. Okay, so that's your first task, is to recreate what we've made right here basically. Feel free to put one of your student names in if you want. If you want to use actual information here, so this is something purposeful for what you're doing, that's fine. Of course, we're all familiar with confidentiality and things of that nature. Don't worry about that. I'm not going to go around talking about who your student was. Any other questions? Like I said, post them at the bottom. I'll be glad to help. Thanks.